Earlier this year, OnePlus released the OnePlus 5. It had nearly flagship specs, but didn't have the price to match. Came in at around $449. Well, if you picked one up, you were probably pretty happy with it, although you're not so happy today. That's because OnePlus released the OnePlus 5T. They increased the size of the display, changed the aspect ratio, and they increased the price. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the OnePlus 5T. I've got a lot of great stuff on the way to the studio, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And the channel's growing really rapidly as we just passed 18,500 subs. Thanks everyone. So here's what's new with the OnePlus 5T. They increased the size of the display to 6.01 inches. It's an optic AMOLED display. They improved the camera somewhat. We'll talk more about that in just a little bit. And it has a new starting price at $499 with the option to go up even higher. And for that $499, you get 6 GB of RAM and 64 GB of onboard storage. Now for $559, you can get 8 GB of RAM and 128 GB of onboard storage. That's the unit I decided to go with. Now powering this bad boy is the Snapdragon 835 that is a premium level CPU. I ordered my unit directly from OnePlus and shipping was actually pretty quick. And packaging looks just like the one you get with the OnePlus 5. It's very premium. In holding the unit for the first time, you realize this feels like a flagship phone. If you live outside of China, the only color right now is midnight black. But in China, there is a really gorgeous looking lava red, which looks really hot. In the box, they give you a SIM ejection tool along with some documentation. And they also throw in a clear case. That's a nice touch. You get that red USB Type-C cable, and of course you get your dash charger for that very fast charging. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. Now the star of this show has to be its 6.01-inch optic AMOLED display. It's a diamond pentile display and it has a resolution of 2160 by 1080. That's 401 pixels per inch, and it also has an 18:9 aspect ratio, bringing it in line with the other flagships of 2017. And of course, since this is an AMOLED display, you're going to get those very deep inky blacks and the very vibrant punchy colors. Looks really great and even looks good in off angle. At 440 nits, it gets pretty bright and it is really good in direct sunlight thanks to its good sunlight contrast ratio. The OnePlus 5T runs Android 7.1.1 Nougat with Oreo on the way. And it has its own skin. It's called the OxygenOS. It's version 4.7.2. I like OxygenOS as it's a very lightweight skin. The OS seems very fluid. The skin seems very fluid with very little bloatware. I'm a big fan of the OxygenOS. And it has the fastest facial unlock I've ever seen. It's so fast I wasn't even sure facial unlock was actually even turned on, but it was, and it was extremely fast. Now on the OnePlus 5, the fingerprint scanner was on the front of the device, but because of the new aspect ratio and display size of the OnePlus 5T, that was moved to the back of the device, and actually a place that I prefer. And it worked really well, setup was easy, and registered my finger pretty much every time I used it. And just like pretty much every other flagship of 2017, they decided to go once again with the dual camera setup, this time with a 16 megapixel along with a 20 megapixel shooter. And I would have to say that the image quality was okay. It wasn't terrible. It certainly is not on the level of the Pixel 2 XL or the iPhone X, but it actually was certainly serviceable. You can get some pretty decent shots in good lighting. In low light situations, it was a mixed bag. It was supposed to help with that second camera in terms of low light shooting. I didn't really see any difference, but in actual good sunlight, you're actually taking some decent shots. This is not the greatest cameras. Let's get that out of the way. At $500, I'm not expecting that high level camera performance you'd get out of, say, the Pixel 2 XL or the iPhone X. You can shoot 4K video up to 30 frames per second. You can also shoot 1080p video up to 60 frames per second. Now it has electronic image stabilization. I thought it worked very well. I thought it was pretty smooth in terms of the video quality. I actually liked the video on this, especially in good lighting. In the low light situations, it was okay. It was certainly serviceable. Not the best I've ever seen, but certainly not the worst. So this is the front-facing camera on the OnePlus 5T. It's a 1080p camera, and it's actually pretty good. It's not bad considering this is, remember, a $499 phone, or at least that's what it starts at, and it's actually pretty good. Now, the cameras aren't excellent. They're not the best. They're not flagship top level like we've seen in the Pixel XL2 or the iPhone 10, but this is actually not bad, and I'm not going to bash them too much on the cameras, especially at this price. The OnePlus 5T sports a 3300 mAh battery. That's the same size as its predecessor, the OnePlus 5. Now here's how it did on the AMDtech endurance test. It did little over 10 hours on the web browsing test and did just under 17 hours on the video playback test. That's a little less than the OnePlus 5, but that's to be expected with the higher res display and the bigger display. Overall, battery life was good. And just like its predecessor, the OnePlus 5, it comes with the dash charger. Now you get some pretty fast charging times. You'll go from 0 to 100% in about 55 minutes. You'll get to about 65% in about 30 minutes. All very fast. Now the one caveat is you'll have to use the supplied dash charger and USB-C cable. You cannot use some other third-party brand. And due to its all-metal design, it cannot do wireless charging. The OnePlus 5T has a mono speaker located on the bottom of the device. Now, sure, I would have preferred stereo speakers. Of course, that would have been better, but here we get a mono speaker, and it actually sounded pretty good. It gets pretty loud. There is some bass on it, but again, not stereo sound, which of course I would have preferred. Now let's hear it in action. Later, things have changed. The two big reasons that held me back from giving it my recommendation are now gone. They fixed a lot of the problems with software updates and a few hacks here and there, and I was able to get the camera app working to the way I like it. And well, my, look what we have here. That's right, it's a 3.5mm headphone jack. Many manufacturers have moved away from including a 3.5mm headphone jack. Not OnePlus. They've retained it, and it sounds really good. There's no interference on it, and when you plug in wired headphones, it sounds really excellent. The OnePlus 5T supports both CDMA and GSM networks. Now, it will be missing the band 13, which is necessary for Verizon here in the United States, so you will not get very good coverage, if at all, on the Verizon network, and you can forget about Sprint. But in the United States, you can use it on the GSM networks. That means T-Mobile, AT&T, and of course, I was able to use it with my Project Fi SIM without any issues, connecting up to LTE for very fast speeds. And of course, the Snapdragon 835 is a flagship level processor, and that's why we're able to get these very good Geekbench 4 results. Gaming is certainly very good. Check out the Antutu benchmark score, and I was able to play games such as Subway Surfers, which worked really well, very smooth, very crisp, and the gameplay was really good. Now, gaming performance is certainly aided by the fact that this does have that Snapdragon 835, and it has at least 6 GB of RAM for the entry-level version, but if you opt for the higher-end version, which is the one with 8 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage, obviously that would be even better, and higher-end games will play even better with that 8 GB of RAM. It has 802.11 AC dual band wireless, which worked really well. Range and reception were excellent, and it has Bluetooth 5.0. No issues on that front as far as pairing is concerned. No issues regarding that. So to bring it all home, can I recommend the OnePlus 5T? Did OnePlus make all the right improvements over the OnePlus 5? And the answer is an absolute yes. I love its 6.01-inch optic AMOLED display. It's sharp, it's crisp, and I like the aspect ratio of 18:9. I thought battery life was very good. I loved its super fast facial recognition, and the cameras were improved, and I love the fact that it has a 3.5mm headphone jack. But of course there are some flaws. Now, main one being is that the main camera is not as good as other flagships, although it does come in at half the price of those flagships. And it's still no waterproofing, no change from the OnePlus 5. So I think that's an area they need to improve on in the next iteration. And I did have a few problems with the facial unlock or facial recognition in certain lighting conditions. But those few negatives aside, this really is an excellent device. And that's why I'm going to give this an 88%, making this worth your money. So what do you think about the OnePlus 5T? I think it's a real good bargain. I think at $499 you're getting basically flagship level specs minus the camera. I think the cameras on the back are good. They're not great, and they're certainly not excellent. Not the level of the Pixel 2 XL or of course the iPhone 10. Those are in a different class. But this actually does improve the cameras from the previous iteration, the OnePlus 5. I think the 16 and the 20 dual cameras are okay. They're not great, but they certainly get the job done. The front-facing selfie camera in the front works okay. It's a 16 megapixel shooter. I thought it was very good. It was 1080p, and I thought it was okay. Now, the things I like about this phone obviously are the display. It's an AMOLED display, an optic AMOLED display, and I thought it was very good. I like the 6-inch display. I think it was very sharp. The blacks are very deep. The colors are very vibrant. Exactly what you'd want in an AMOLED display. Obviously, it's not the level of the Samsung Super AMOLED, but I think it's a notch right below that, which is very good. Now, I like the fact that it does have the 3.5mm headset jack. I never thought I would have to say this in a video, that it is a Pro. It should always be in there. Obviously, many manufacturers are moving away from the 3.5mm headphone jack. This one has it, and it worked really well. Now, as far as speakers are concerned, I wish it did have the stereo speakers. Unfortunately, it doesn't. It has that mono speaker, although it was okay. It was, for a mono speaker, it sounded pretty good. It got pretty loud. There was a hint of bass, but again, I would have preferred stereo speakers. And I think overall, you're getting a good value at $499 starting. You're getting the 6 gigabytes of RAM, the 64 gigabytes of onboard storage. There is no storage expansion. There is no micro SD card slot, but that's not a deal breaker because for $59 more, you can get the 128 version. It also comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM. I'm going to call it my favorite budget flagship smartphone, and I say budget loosely because it still is $500, but again, you're getting, for the most part, flagship specs. Again, I'm curious to know what you think. Leave a comment in that comment section below. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and of course our website, AMDtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew from AMDtech. See ya.